Welcome back to Stu Structures. We are here to continue building on the Riverside shops in this video number 4 of the series, so stay tuned. Okay, so welcome back. Like I said, welcome to all my new subscribers. We are here to continue this build. We have the roofs to continue working on. There's actually a little extra to add in there than just what it looked like as I was getting them started last week. The overhangs actually stick out with a flat underside past the edges of the buildings a little bit, so I have to add those in. There's just a lot to do on this, so let's jump into this and see how much we can get accomplished this week. Kind of left this last week with some of this bracing in the roof, and there are a few more braces I'm going to add to this upper section of both sides of the roof. In this lower building, we kind of had braced to this point, so it's ready for the cardboard to be glued onto it. So after I add those few braces, I've got all this cardboard that I showed that I had cut from last week to a size for all the areas. But there's one more thing I really need to accomplish. The two long sides of this building where they come out beyond the walls of the building actually have a flat surface underneath that come out to meet that wall. So I need to cut these strips here and come back and add these as an overhang on each of the long sides of this building. So I just cut these to length and glue them into place. I'm going to have to come back and cut the length slightly off after I get the tops of the walls on these so that they match flush. But basically that's these coming on so I can get the roofs in place. And I probably should have pre-painted these on here, but I'll just have to come back and put some paint on these. So now we can go ahead and start adding our roofs on. And I'm using some of my old lead weights for this, but basically I just glue those into place and put a weight on them until they set up, and voila, the first section of roof is on here. And I'm just going to go ahead and continue that with all the different cardboard pieces. Now this one side here, I kind of raised the building so that the roof is more of on a flat level area, so I can go ahead and put those weights on it. Now here, I finally wised up, so I'm going to come back, and this is the same color paint that I used on the walls, and I'm going to paint the edges that stick out from the building on the bottom sides of all this cardboard. And I do come back and as well go ahead and paint the overhangs that I just glued on that I didn't pre-paint. I just, a case of duh on my behalf. So this will just save me from having to come back and paint those once they're glued onto the building. And now I'm going to come back and finish gluing the rest of the roofs on now that I've got, that paint out of the way. And I glue this long flat lower side on because this upper piece here actually overlaps that on the top side. So I come back and glue that on after that. And then, then once I do that, I've got some buffering to do in the ends of this cardboard, but we can do that with the roofing paper. The only other roofs I've got to do really are on this building on the back end of the main building, the addition on there. So I come back and put this triangle in place and glue it into place with my weights on it, let it set up. And then I'm going to come back and glue this last piece on it and put weights on it so it'll set up. All the joints aren't perfect on these, but you're never going to see this once I get my roofing paper on and everything else is, the finished product on the roof. So I'm not really worried about any gaps or anything right now at this point. And I'd mentioned before I was painting more of these strips for the trim on this building. I did paint a couple more than I had originally painted. I think I'm going to need a few more, but I'm going to start with these 1x6s to begin with and just start getting a trim on this. So I lay this up underneath the eave, and where the wall meets the eave, it gets a trim piece. So I cut that to length and glue it into place. And then from that board down to the bottom of the structure, it gets these 1x6s that wrap all the corners and joints where everything comes together. So that back half of that wall, I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting all these and gluing these onto that back section of wall. So one by one, you know, these are those two done with also the other roof meeting piece at the top of this wall. And this starts to clean up all those gaps and odd looking places. You know, it just cleans up the look of the building so much, having this over all those, you know, unperfect ends of the building where they meet. Now on this other, you know, small addition for the small store off this side, we're going to go ahead and do it as well. And I wrap these three sides on that, and then I come back and lap the other corner of that building wall back there. And this front corner, I put the top piece on that wall, then use the front piece on it as well, and glue it into place. Now the next thing I need to do is this front wall. And you can see how, you know, this looks right now, but once I get this 1x piece on that, it really cleans up the look of that corner quite a bit. And the other piece, you know, that's on this front is where the big building is behind that on this side of that corner. And I go ahead and put another piece of trim that overlaps that from the top of the building down to the ground level as well. And that's most of this side of the building. Now I'm going to continue with that next week, but you know, the storefronts, these all have big open windows in them, and so I need to do some window treatments on the inside to look like they've got something for sale in the stores. So a couple of things I'm going to do is make a couple of mannequins so they could sell some women's coats and clothing and that type of a thing, because there's a general merchandise store in one of these. So I just take these and cut the legs and the head off the one, and I'm going to paint these and put them in the windows. Another thing is I'm going to put some paint cans and that type of thing in there, so I need to make little tiny cans. So I just got two different sizes of round stock here, and I'm using my chopper so I get all the cans the same exact size, and I just come through and cut a bunch of each size of the cans that I'm going to paint to make for cans. Then I can stack these up in one of the windows as for sale for paint, or, you know, kegs of nails or whatever. And I'm just going to put them in this little holder here to hold them temporarily, but basically that gives me tons of cans to add into one of the windows. So there you have this week's segment of the Riverside Shops. I still am not full blast and have enough time to work as much as I want to each week on these buildings. I'm still trying to get everything ready in the nursery for winter. And I'm really stepping up my game this year with state associations and licenses and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I've got a lot of lectures I need to attend and things over the winter to try to get my business up to the next level, so to speak. I even started a YouTube channel. So 3B Farm put up its first video this last week. Most of you that are into trains probably aren't into plants, but if you have any interest in the type of farming that I do and the raising of nursery stock and that type of thing, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, 3B Farm. And I would appreciate that. But in any case, you know, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, you know, doing that, but as I'm doing that work anyway, it's easy to film a little bit of it, and I don't have to go out of my way like I do to do this train stuff when I'm, you know, that's my priority in life is my business. So I'm going to continue working on this, but I'm going to try to get something out each week. Like this week, I wish I'd have got farther. I would have liked to have finished the trim on the other three sides of this building this week, and it just didn't happen. The inside guts for the windows, I need to think some more on that. There's other stuff I need to add into the displays in the windows and the fronts of these buildings, so I need to work on that some more. And one side of this building is on a river bank, so there are stone pillars that hold up one side of this on the river bankment, and I need to start thinking about that and how I'm going to create this, because it's going to have to be setting up off the ground about 1 story on one side. So the other side's going to have a false bottom underneath of it or something to allow me to be able to do that. So I've got to start thinking about what kind of a base or how I'm going to mount this building, you know, in that type of an awkward situation, so it can be used on the layout later on. And I mean, there's still a good bit to do. We've got all the roofing to do. There's a couple of chimneys and pipes and things on top the roofs. There's the trim that actually goes around the roof itself that needs to go on. and you know, a couple of pieces of signage for the front. The stores didn't have a lot of signs in them, but they did have some. And the windows I can use signage in as well. So I'll go into how I came up with some signs and things like that for the store as well. So with all that being said, thanks for coming back and enjoying the show with me this week. I do appreciate you spending this time with me. And I'm still getting a few subscribers here and there, even though I've been off for several months and I'm just getting back into this. So thank you if you've subscribed recently to my channel. I do appreciate it. And you know, when I got into this, I was going to build these buildings anyway because I want to build, you know, a specific place in time. So none of this is available in kit form. And, you know, most people are kind of intimidated a little bit by scratch building, and, you know, nobody taught me. I mean, I learn, I make mistakes on every building. There have been a couple big mistakes on this one that you saw me undo and redo and, you know, figure things out. It's all about experimentation. I mean, none of these come with directions, you know. You have to make it up as you go. That's what scratch building's all about. And it's also about, you know, when you're done, the satisfaction that you have and the fact that you came up with something that's really nice that nobody else has. And, you know, when all these come together on a scene to depict a specific place in time, it's really going to be quite incredible. Grafton Yard and the Belington Yard both, and I'm going to have some buildings in between those that were here and there, coal mines and, you know, various things. But it all adds to the layout, and if you're doing something like this, I hope you can learn something from me. You know, I've joked in past videos, I said maybe you can learn how not to do something by watching what I do. And everybody has their own ways of doing things. Some of this is harping on subjects that I've harped on before, but, you know, some things work for me and don't work for other people. And some things I've watched people do and I've tried them and I think, all right, I'm going to do it this way because it works better for me. So everything I do might not be perfect for what you want to do. You know, you're going to have to come up with the ideas, the materials, and the planning, and do everything for each individual building can be different from the one you built before. And it's all, to me, it's all fun. I enjoy it. I wish I had more time to spend in the hobby. I'll probably never get to retire, and I'm just starting my new business coming off the ground at 65 years old. So I'll probably, you know, be like the old farmers and die on my tractor in the field or something, you know. Hopefully I've got some years left in me so I can finish building all these and get them on a layout before I head in that direction. I mean, I'm pretty good in life right now, so it's all good. But, you know, it's all about enjoying your hobby. You know, many people have different hobbies. I've got a couple other hobbies as well. Besides plants, I collect stamps. You know, and I've got quite a large stamp collection. I've been doing that since I was 6 or 7 years old, which is about the same time I started into trains. You know, so I've got a lot of years doing both, you know, all these things actually. And it's all because I enjoy it. It's my escape from the real world, which really sucks. So in any case, once again, I'm rambling. Thanks for coming back and sharing this time. I do appreciate it. Winter time isn't here. Enjoy the hobby. Happy model railroading.